What's going on, everyone? So I was at the gym yesterday morning trying to get a workout in before New Year's Eve got too crazy. Just doing some cardio on the treadmill and watching whatever was on the TV screens mounted on the wall. Most of them had news or sitcom reruns, but one was showing SportsCenter, and I wasn't really paying attention until I saw Warriors trade rumors flash across the bottom ticker. I figured it would just be the usual Jonathan Kuminga speculation, or maybe something about them targeting a backup center, nothing too groundbreaking. But then I saw them put up a graphic that said, Anthony Davis to Golden State, and I literally stopped running on the treadmill and just stood there staring at the screen, trying to figure out if this was real or some kind of joke. The analyst started breaking down multiple reports from NBA insiders about this possibility, and I ended up standing on that treadmill for another 15 minutes, just watching the entire segment unfold, while people were probably wondering why I wasn't actually exercising. But then the conversation took this completely unexpected turn, where they started discussing Darius Garland as an alternative target for the Warriors that would make way more sense given their timeline and roster construction, and I literally got off the treadmill and went to sit in the stretching area just so I could focus entirely on what they were saying. Let me walk you through everything that went down, because the way they connected the Anthony Davis rumors to the Warriors' actual needs, to alternative solutions like Garland, was actually some of the best roster analysis I've heard in a while. So they opened with this premise that trade rumors are here for Dub Nation, specifically Anthony Davis to Golden State, and that's what they were going to talk about on the show. They'd been hearing a bunch of rumors about the Warriors potentially targeting a center ahead of the trade deadline, and we're now 15 days out from Jonathan Kuminga's trade restriction being lifted, which opens up all kinds of possibilities for roster moves. Hey, what's up, everyone? Before we jump in, let me ask you something that takes 1 second. That like button? Hitting it right now helps this channel more than you know. It's how we reach thousands more fans with this content. Just smash that like button real quick. It's the biggest way you can support what we're building here. Every like matters, so hit it now. The analyst mentioned they're almost at their next milestone of 101,500 subscribers and need 149 more to hit that number, which was a nice personal touch before diving into the content. But then, they got right into it. Anthony Davis trade rumors to Golden State seems wild, right? A guy who makes $54 million. Does Golden State really have the means to make a trade like that? Especially for someone like Davis, who is often injured and was literally injured right then, having gotten hurt in the Christmas Day game against the Warriors. They brought up Chris Haynes' report where he said, I came on last week and I told you about what the Warriors are looking for: a big man, a running big man, protect the paint, lob threat. I was told they are contemplating making a case to acquire Anthony Davis as well. And here's where the skepticism really started coming in. The analyst was breaking down how the Warriors have Steph at age 37, Jimmy Butler at 36, Draymond at 35, guys who are often missing game. Andrew Wiggins at 40 can't even play both nights of a back-to-back. Did they not watch Anthony Davis go out and get hurt on Christmas? This is a guy who's on the shelf more than he's on the court, and for a Warriors team with those same injury issues, why would you bring someone like Davis into this mess and create more problems? Chris Haynes had more to say about the Lakers' perspective on this, which was really interesting. He said, with that being said, I was told the Lakers are not that fascinated with what Golden State has on its book. If the Warriors did really want to make a true play at Anthony Davis, they would likely have to acquire some more assets or involve another team. And this tells you that the Lakers have really no interest in acquiring Jimmy Butler specifically. The analyst started breaking down the trade mechanics. AD and Jimmy make the same amount of money, so if the Lakers were interested in Butler, they could just do a one-for-one swap. But this quote from Haynes suggests they don't want Butler at all. However, there is another way to potentially get this done, and that's where things got complicated. Mark Stein of the Stein Line had double confirmed some version of this story, saying, the Warriors have held a long-standing fondness for Davis, and I'm told they have indeed had some internal discussions about pursuing him, but they do not appear to be actively doing so 6-ish weeks out from the deadline. I'm likewise told that Davis's contract with potentially 2 years left on it if the 32-year-old exercises his $62.7 million player option in 2027 to 28, and the injury woes he has endured since becoming a Laker have thrust a measure of pause into Golden State's deliberation. The analyst was emphatic that, yeah, he would hope so, because the best route for the Warriors to try to win a championship and compete in the Western Conference is not making a trade for Anthony Davis. A Jimmy Butler and Anthony Davis swap specifically makes no sense for either side. If the Lakers' idea of trading Davis is to get picks and assets to build around Cooper Flagg, not a 37-year-old Butler who's going to win more games and get them closer to the play-in than the top of the lottery where they want to be, but here's where they laid out a potential framework. If the Warriors really wanted to pursue this, it would require sending out Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and one of Moses Moody or Buddy Hield to make the money work. Plus, the Warriors would almost certainly be sending this year's first-round pick unprotected. When you consider Buddy hasn't been in the rotation much for Steve Kerr, Kuminga is completely excommunicated from Kerr's lineup, and Draymond is slipping with some calling him washed. After his fight with Kerr, there's a possibility they could move these guys. But the problem is, who's going to want Draymond Green? That's the issue with this deal. He certainly wouldn't be going to the Lakers in this scenario. Maybe Kuminga goes there, but that second half of the Haynes quote suggests they're probably not that interested in him either. So you'd probably need to find another team, another partner to get an additional asset to flip to the Lakers. Specifically, you'd have to find somebody who would send a first-round pick for Kuminga, and how likely is that? And this is where everything started pivoting toward the Darius Garland discussion, because the analyst was making this broader point about what the Warriors actually need versus what they're rumored to be pursuing. The Anthony Davis stuff doesn't make sense for so many reasons. The injury history, the age, the cost in assets, the fact that it doesn't address their real need. What the Warriors actually need more than an Anthony Davis is somebody younger, somebody more durable, somebody who fits their timeline better. And that's where Darius Garland comes into the picture as a much more logical target. The succession planning aspect is huge, with Steph, Draymond, and Klay Thompson, who went to the Mavericks, all aging. The Warriors need young talents with all-star potential to ensure competitiveness in the future. Garland, at 25 years old, fits that profile perfectly. The support for Stephen Curry angle is critical too. While Curry continues to be the main star, adding another elite point guard like Garland could reduce his workload in playmaking, allowing Steph to focus more on his incredible scoring ability and off-ball movement. At 37, preserving Curry's energy and health is paramount, and having Garland handle more ball-handling duties would help with that. The shooting and creation reinforcement came up as a major selling point. Garland is known for excellent court vision, passing, and three-point shooting at 40.1%. in the 2024-25 season. Those skills are highly valued in the Warriors system, which is based on movement, spacing, and perimeter shooting. When you can add a guard who shoots that efficiently while also creating for others, it's exactly what Golden State's motion offense is designed to maximize. The interest in young players with potential was emphasized. The Warriors have shown they're trying to trade Jonathan Kuminga, so they're clearly willing to move assets for the right return. Garland would be a higher caliber, more established target than what they could get for Kuminga alone. This represents the kind of win-now and future move that makes sense for their timeline. The reaction to recent departures came up too. With Klay Thompson gone and Chris Paul potentially being traded or released, the Warriors have gaps to fill in their guard rotation. Garland could fill multiple roles. He could be the primary ball handler when Steph rests, he could play alongside Curry in a two-point guard lineup, or he could even take over as the face of the franchise when Curry eventually retires or declines. They started discussing what a trade package for Garland would look like compared to the Anthony Davis framework. Would it still require Kuminga? Probably. Would it need Draymond? Maybe not, if you're talking to Cleveland instead of the Lakers. The Cavaliers might actually want Kuminga as a young wing to develop, plus picks, plus maybe Moses Moody or another young piece. That's a package Cleveland might actually consider if they're looking to reshape their roster around their core. The fit question with the Warriors' system was discussed extensively. How would Garland mesh with Steph Curry? Could they play together effectively, or would there be too much overlap? The consensus seemed to be that talented guards figure it out, and Steve Kerr has shown he can manage multiple ball handlers effectively. You could stagger their minutes to always have an elite playmaker on the floor, or you could unleash them together in critical stretches and overwhelm defenses with multiple creators. The contract situation was brought up as potentially favorable compared to the Anthony Davis scenario. Garland's deal is significant, but not as massive as AD's $62.7 million player option. The Warriors could potentially make the money work without gutting their entire roster, and Garland's age means he'd be a long-term piece, rather than a short-term rental. They transitioned to talking about the Warriors' recent win over Brooklyn, which provided some context for why they might be looking to upgrade. The Nets had won 7 of their previous 10 games and were playing well, but the Warriors clawed back from a 28-13 deficit to win. They shot poorly from 3 at 10 of 33, but forced turnovers and played sound defense in the second half. Steph's performance was discussed not so much statistically, 27 points, 5 assists, 2 turnovers, but in terms of how poorly he's being officiated. The analyst was frustrated about how many times Steph had continuation fouls called on the floor instead of and ones, saying it was legitimately 3 times before they finally gave him the 4th one. Year 16, and he still can't get a simple call that every other superstar gets. SGA and Jalen Brunson get these calls 4 or 5 times a game, but Steph gets mauled and doesn't get rewarded. Jimmy Butler's performance was highlighted as he took over with reserves on the floor during that 28-13 deficit, playing with guys like Quinton Post, Pat Spencer, DeAnthony Melton, and Gary Payton II. He cut the deficit to 1 by the end of the first quarter, showing the kind of leadership the Warriors need. No turnovers, unlike the Toronto game, so a nice bounce-back performance. DeAnthony Melton got a shout-out for 10 points, 8 rebounds, and great defense, even though his three-point shot isn't falling yet. 1 for his last 20 from deep. Trace Jackson Davis was great with 11 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, 2 blocks. Maybe one of his better games ever. Will Richard made classic energy plays in the second half, forcing live ball turnovers and getting out in transition. But Draymond wasn't great, passing up too many open layups for corner threes that weren't falling. Moses Moody might have lost his starting spot after going 1 for 8 and posting a -15. He goes through these stretches during the season where he gets reduced to a minor role, and this was one of those games signaling he might not play as much going forward. And this all circles back to why someone like Darius Garland makes so much more sense than Anthony Davis. The Warriors need consistency, youth, shooting, playmaking, all things Garland provides. AD gives you size and defensive potential when healthy, but the when healthy part is doing a lot of work there. Garland has been relatively durable throughout his career. He's 25 years old, entering his prime, and he addresses actual needs rather than creating new problems. The analyst wrapped up by asking if people believe the Warriors can be a top 6 seed, which connects to whether they should make a big move or stand pat. If you think they can compete as currently constructed, maybe you don't make a major trade. But if you think they need an upgrade to maximize Steph's remaining elite years, then pursuing someone like Garland makes way more sense than the Anthony Davis pipe dream. What really struck me about this entire Sports Center segment was how they used the Anthony Davis rumors as a jumping-off point to discuss what the Warriors actually need versus what gets reported. The Garland discussion wasn't just an alternative. It was a superior option that addresses succession planning, complements Curry, fits the system, and doesn't come with the massive injury risk that Davis brings. So, what do you guys think? Should the Warriors pursue Darius Garland as a long-term building block alongside and eventually replacing Steph Curry? Or should they take a swing on Anthony Davis despite all the risks? And do you believe the Warriors can be a top 6 seed as currently constructed? Or do they need to make a significant move to compete in the Western Conference? Let me know in the comments, because after watching SportsCenter break down the trade landscape for Golden State, I'm pretty convinced Garland is the move they should be making rather than chasing the Anthony Davis fantasy.